Okay, Team Impact, we're moving on today. It's a short week. We have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Probably Monday and Tuesday will be in the packet. Wednesday we'll be doing some auxiliary things in the classroom so we can have the weekend off over Thanksgiving. Let's get ready to rock and roll today. We're going to go fractions, decimals, and percents. We're going to set up proportions. Going to be using our calculator too. So we have a multitude of things to do. So make sure you have everything here and fired up. Just clear my calculator and let's go. All right. A fraction, all right, can be written as a percent when the denominator is 100. Remember, all percents are out of 100. There can be an improper fraction too. That's okay. But we have to be able to set up a proportion. If the denominator is a friendly number, you can scale, right, up or down, or use a proportion. Proportion. P-O-R, excuse me, P-R-O. I could spell right, huh? P-R-O-P-O-R-T-I-O-N, proportion. Okay, so a proportion, this just means these two are equal. How are we scaling? Well, 2 times 20 is 40, 5 times 20 is 100. Nothing different than we have done, right? So we're just multiplying by 20 on the top and the bottom. This is congruent to this is equal. If I cross multiplied these two, all right, I would get 200, all right? So that's what we're looking at. Okay. Number one. We're going to convert the fraction, all right, to a percent by making the denominator 100. Okay, so again, when they're friendly numbers, meaning that you can do it mentally, then just scale it up. When it's not friendly, we're going to cross multiply and divide. We're going to set up an equation similar to this. So 6 out of 20 is equal to what out of 100, right? Well, I clearly know that 20 times 5 is 100, right? And I also know that 6 times 5 is 30. So 30 out of 100 is 30%. That was a friendly number, compatible number where we could scale. Okay, and these are all going to be compatible, right? So again, let's take this to 100 times 10 times 10 is 70, and that is 70%. Any number over 100 is a percent. Now, we look at number 3. It's a little unique because we have an improper fraction. 60 out of 50, right? 60 out of 50. Well, we want to take that to 100. So this is times 2. This is going to be times 2, which is 120. 120 out of 100 is 120%. And that's fine. We can have percents greater or less, all right, greater than 100 or less than 1. Yep, so that's a good start. Again, we're trying to set up proportions, okay? And we have to make sure that we do this. We just don't want to, hey, I'm going to multiply it by 5 and go there. No, we have to set up 2 equal ratios. Not all fractions can be easily multiplied by a whole number to get the denominator of 100. For example, 1/3. All right, so when we get into these different ones, we're going to set up a proportion. I'm not going to use tape diagrams, but I'm going to write this in anyway. Divide the tape diagram into a number line into the same number of sections as the denominator. All right, we're not going to do this. All right, shade the number of parts indicated by the numerator. And then estimate the value. Well, I'm not going to do this because I feel that when we set up a proportion, it's easier, okay, and we can get right there and we can use our calculator. Only thing I'm asking you to do is set it up, right? Okay, well, let's get started here. All right, so again, we're not going to worry about this part. 1/8, it says 1/8 is equal to what percent? All percents are out of 100. So we're going to put X on the top. X is the part, this is the whole. 1/8 equals X is the part, this is the whole. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross multiply. All right, I'm going to take 1 times 100 and get 100. And then I'm going to divide it by 8. And when I divide it by 8, that's going to give me my value for X. Okay, so I'm going to turn this on, fire it up so you can see the light's on. Here we go. 100 divided by 8 is 12.5. Okay, so x is 12 and 5 tenths out of 100, right? Which is 12 and 5 tenths percent. Okay, and when we look at this, 1/8 equals 12 and 5 tenths percent. So to me, that's a lot easier than setting it up. Again, let me review what I did there, because it is vital that you show this work, because you will not get credit. I took this times this and got 100. I took 100 and divided it by 8 and got 12 and 5 tenths over 100. And when I write it by itself, I put it in percent form. Let's flip it over and go. Next up, 4 1/3, excuse me, 4 1/3, excuse me, that's number 4. 1/3 is equal to what percent? Okay, no problem. So when we look at this, let's set up what we know. 1/3 equals x over 100. X over 100. This has to be equal to this, and we're trying to put this out of 100 so we can put it in a percent. So 1 times 100 is 100. I always like to write that down. 100 divided by 3. All right, so if we take 100 and divide it by 3, we get this crazy repeating decimal again, right? 33 1/3, or 33 3/10 repeating percent. So x is 33.3 repeating. And if I wrote this down here, it would be written like this, all right? Repeating percent. So 1/3 is equal to that. You have to be able to do this without a calculator. I know the calculator will do it, but I want it done as a proportion. 3/8 is equal to what percent? So let's write it down. 3/8 is equal to x over 100. Okay? So let's multiply. 3 times 100 is 300. 300 divided by 8, use your calculator, is 37 5 tenths. Okay? So x is 37 5 tenths out of 100. So that's in percent value, but let's write it as a percent with the sign, and there it is. So 3/8 is equal to 37 5 tenths percent. No problems, right? Setting up proportions. Proportions. If I don't see this work, you're not getting credit. All right, convert each fraction to an equivalent decimal. Okay, so let's go ahead and change these. Now, if it's an easy one that's jumping out at us, we're just going to write it down, but these aren't. So let's convert these to a percent, and then just move the decimal point 2 places to the left, right? So here we go. 7/8 is out of 100. There's x. 7 times 100 is 700. 700 divided by 8, here I go, is 87.5. So x is 87.5. Out of 100, it's in percent form. Let's write it with the percent sign. All right, but we don't want it as a percent. We want it as a decimal. So I'm going to move that 2 to the left. To change a percent to a decimal, I move the decimal point 2 to the left, and I'll put a 0 there, and it's 875 thousandths. That's just understanding it. Don't get in the habit of just going to the calculator. Write it down. 1/25 equals to a percent first. Multiply 100. 100 divided by 25. Well, I think we all can do that in our head, right? Is 4. 4 out of 100 is the same as 1 out of 25. So 4% equals, and right there's our decimal point. What is a decimal? So let's move it to the left, and there it is, 400ths. Okay. Number 8. 1 4/5, all right, as a decimal. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at this. Sorry there, I had to go to the restroom real quick there. Anyway, let's take a look at this. I'm sorry. First thing I'm going to do to this is I'm going to go ahead and change this to an improper fraction, multiply and add. And I'm going to end up with 9/5. And then I'm going to take 9/5 and make it proportional to something over 100. Okay? So 9 times 100 is 900. 900 divided by 5. All right? And if I did that, would be really 900 divided by 5 is 180. So x is 180. Okay? We want that percent as a decimal. Remember, it's right there at the end to the left, 1 and 8 tenths. 1 and 8 tenths. Okay. So again, converting it, understanding the proportions and going through. Certainly, I could have just done this with my calculator, 1 and 4, down arrow 5, second n over d, but you wouldn't have understood a lick of that work. That doesn't mean anything to you. Okay, last piece. A decimal can be converted to a percent by multiplying, right, by 100, or moving the decimal 2 places, okay, to the right. See, we did this earlier. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So there's a decimal, there's a decimal, there's a decimal. Okay, no problem. Let's take a look at this last piece down here. So a box is filled 4/5 of the way with packing peanuts. What percent represents the fraction filled? Okay, so we take 4/5 and we're going to put this over 100 and we're looking for x, right? Okay, so what percent? We're looking at 4/5 equal. So 4 times 100 is 400. 400, let's see what that is. 400 divided by 5 is 80. So x is 80. 80 out, 80 out of 100 is 80%. But let's see here, what percent of the fraction? 80%. There's what they're looking for. Okay, next one. Marcy lives 1 and 1500 miles away from her grandmother. What fraction represents the distance, all right, from her? So there's a couple different ways. So let's write 1 and 1500, which actually equals 1 and 15 out of 100. 1 and 1500 is 1 and 15 over 100. And we could simplify that, right? And these both end in a 5 and a 0. So I'm going to divide them by 5, and I get 1 and 3/20. Last piece, number 11. 19 of the 20 students in Mrs. Gonzalez's science class are attending the field trip. What percent best represents the portion of the class that is attending the field trip? 19 out of 20. And they want to know what percent that is. So I'm going to scale it up to over 100. Well, this is a compatible number, right? So I know this is what? Times 5. This is times 5. 19 times the 5 is 95 out of 100, which is 95%, which is what 19 out of 20 is equals. Okay? Okay, good stuff today. Good lesson. Again, I'm going to say this one more time. Please set up proportions on your homework. Have a good day.